Hi, I'm Mark Horton. I'm doing a podcast here today with my good friend and colleague, Greg Cowart. Greg and I worked together for many years, and Greg is, he's been a mentor to me, but he is a tremendously high producing, high functioning loan officer in our business. And I think one of the things he's done to get him there is leverage hiring, building a team, training people, putting people in place to help you be more successful. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. So welcome, Greg. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, happy to be here.
I'm honored to have you here. It's a fun topic. You and I sat down last year for several hours. You helped me because I was ready to take that step and bring somebody on. It's a scary thing for a lot of people. And I like this podcast to transcend real estate, and I think this topic does because I can think off the top of my head. I had a financial advisor friend, I had a insurance broker friend, I even had a landscaper friend that was really busy, doing really well, and wanted to expand, but you kind of hit a ceiling of what you can do when you're doing it all by yourself. And you're a top producer, top 1% of loan officers in this country, which is, I don't care what you're doing, top 1% of anything is remarkable. And we have a lot of people like that in our company. I mean, NFM is such a concentration of superstars. And, my boss, JC, has been like that for decades. You didn't just do it one year, you did it year over year over year, and a lot of these people do. And I think the reason for that, I don't know the exact formula, but I know one element of that formula is the team building. You couldn't do it. You never could have done it if you didn't take that first step to hire that first person, which is a scary thing for a lot of people. Before we get into that though, I want to talk just like microsecond about what's happening right now. I think it's relevant. I think it'll nicely lead into this topic. But what's happening right now, interest rates are up, volume is down. If you're in our industry, hopefully you saved for this because you know that this is a natural thing that happens and you were prepared for it. I feel like I'm on a different plane right now because I'm excited. What I see is an opportunity to go and do a lot of the things that I want to do. And if you are slammed with business and you're so busy, you're crazy, like trying to close loans and make things happen and fix problems, you don't have a lot of time to grow, maybe interview and hire someone, train someone, get out there and do marketing stuff, the kind of stuff you're supposed to be doing all the time. But if you're a guy like me before, when I just had the one person or no help really, and you're trying to juggle all that, you need this support to help you get out and do those things. So tell me a little bit about, I'm going to throw one concept out there at you that you can talk about maybe first, which is hire slow, fire quickly. That was one thing that you talked to me about. When you go to hire that first person, it's almost like you could create a 3-ring binder and go through the motions of how to do it and just add to that all the time. Because hiring that first person is tough. You may slip and stumble and maybe make a mistake and it's not the right person. But you really want to try to do the due diligence to try to your best to get the right person, right fit. And then if it doesn't work, unfortunately, you got to realize that and move on. So hire slow and fire fast is one thing. And then I also want to ask you if you could comment on the opportunity to hire someone that already has a lot of skills and is experienced, and you can bring them in and just plug them in, versus hiring someone that maybe just seems like they have the right personality for it, right skill set, eager, hardworking, and then you train them. So I'll let you go on that. But I mean, the reason why we want to talk about this again is because, at least in our business, I think maybe you can do 5, 6, 7 files comfortably on your own. You probably should be able to do that. But as a loan officer, once you hit 7, 8, 9, 10, it starts to get really painful. Your quality of life goes down. Maybe the quality of work you're doing goes down. And you're really not going to get to that 11, 12, 15 without help. So you got to hire that first person. I think a lot of people in their business, like those other people I mentioned, it's a barrier. So, tell me about how did it feel to get the first person? I know a realtor that hired that first person. It was very scary. And I think the first year after he hired them, they actually made more money than he did because he was paying them and stuff like that. But I mean, and that you might be like, that doesn't make sense. But it does make sense. So why does it make sense to make sure that you invest in somebody.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I'm happy to share. I think one of the things I'm 20 years in at this point, and I know you've been, how many?
15, almost.
Yeah. And there's a lot of ways to do any business. I think I've learned that winners, I think from the outside, it looks like winners don't fall.
Right.
I think winners get up quicker.
Yeah, sure.
And so, as you and I talk about hiring and teams and things like that, I'm a good person to talk to just because I've fallen down so much.
Yeah. And a lot of big successful business people will tell you that they've had those, that's how they got to where they were, because they learned from it. So you can't be afraid, one, to fail.
No, and to not hire because you might do it wrong or make a mistake.
Right.
It's a trap because you will do it wrong and you will make a mistake.
Yeah.
And as much as I could tell whoever's feeling like this is a value in watching it, what to do, in the end, they're gonna have to fall.
Sure.
And the problem with hiring is that you're falling with someone else.
Yeah.
And that's scary because you're impacting someone else's life.
Yeah.
So I feel like when you make the decision to hire, there's probably two things I would say to start off. First is know your why. Hires take energy.
Yeah.
And there's only so much in the day. And they take time. And that's really our most precious commodity. So to hire means you're going to be giving up energy and time. And you and I talked about, and I know this is something when I work with loan officers, should you hire? If you're a landscaper, maybe not. But at some point, either you want to grow beyond where you were, or you want to grow financially to a point where the return makes sense.
Yeah.
If you are a loan officer that wants to do 5 loans a month, great.
Yeah.
Make a great living. I think what's the national average? 2, 3?
I think 3.
Yeah.
Is probably normal for.
So 5 is 2x the national average. There's nothing wrong, and you can do your job well. That probably run into if you're a landscaper, if you're a videographer. The better you are, the more people come to you because you're good.
Correct.
And now you've got a problem because the more people come, you either will work more hours, or you'll let people down.
Yeah.
And so being good becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Because you're faced to either say no to business or to grow.
Yeah.
And this is something that people may relate to if they're in this trap. And it really feels like a trap because to grow is going to be painful. To not grow, I'm going to have to say no to business. And to hire means I'm going to have to devote a portion of my time to a person who, by the way, the worst news is when you hire them, they're going to make it even harder to do what you want to do. You're going to go backwards.
Correct. Well, I threw the landscaper example out there because my friend was extremely talented as an artist, and he was out in Los Angeles, and people loved these creations that he made, and that unique, different flair often attracts people.
Yeah.
And so he started getting like $25 and $50, even $150,000 jobs coming his way, and he was literally in the dirt doing the stuff, doing the manual things.
Right. Yeah.
And he loved it, and that's what made him good at it, and that's the product that he wanted. But I was like, you can't, how much is it costing you to be in that dirt doing that?
But that's safe for him, and he's been good there.
Correct.
So now we get into the next thing, which is if you want to hire, you have to be okay with growing.
Yeah.
And that's change for you. You are going to put someone in to replace you.
Yeah.
And especially that first hire.
Yeah.
It's so fearful, and I think people like to say, well, will they do it as good as I will?
Yes.
I think what they don't want to talk about is, are they willing to let go of it and go wake up and do something different?
Yeah. Agreed. I think that's probably the hardest thing, to let go, to literally hand something off to someone.
Yeah.
And let them do it for you. And it can be, like in our thing, it's very personal what you do, the way you connect with people. And you got to let them, to some degree, do it their own way.
Yeah.
But then there is a finite set of things that you need done your way for it to work.
Yeah.
So there's a balance there. Well, I think that's interesting. Tell me, when you hired me, we met, we talked and talked and talked and talked. It was probably 4 months, I would say at least, all said and done. We really wanted to make sure it was the right move for me. It was a big move for me, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But you already had a team. You wanted to make sure I was going to be a good fit with the rest of the team. I was gonna potentially tip the boat a little bit because
Yeah.
you were the only loan officer, I was a new one.
Yeah.
And you were plugging me into them, and was that gonna mess you up? So you had to really feel that out. You had them also, which is another good tactic, is have them interview, right? Have them talk to them, which I know you've done with some of your recent hires, is have these people come in and just let the rest of the team talk to them, right?
Yeah.
But you do it slowly. You take
Yeah.
as much time as possible, really, to make sure it's right.
Well, but that's for somebody who, your friend who's a landscaper that has all that work and his hands are in the dirt. Now I'm going to tell him he's going to mess up.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And he needs to, quote, take a lot of time in hiring. And there's the first trap,
Yeah.
which is that the person, when they're hiring, is typically waiting too long
Mm-hmm.
and is underwater. And now they're in trouble
Yeah.
because a hire will not help you for anywhere between 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
You're negative
Yeah.
for the first 3 to 6 months.
Yep.
And you're going to want to hire quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to hold back and
Yeah.
keep yourself from taking that shortcut.
Right.
Because that shortcut will end up, by the time you get to 6 months and you've invested all that time to flush it, the person and the role, oh, what a waste. And I've done it so many times. There is no shortcut in hiring. And there's also, Mark, this hurts, but there's no guarantees. So as slow as I go, over 20 years, I'm at 50% success rate.
Yeah, and that's probably a good one to shoot for.
And it's good.
Yeah.
Which means my folks, and we've got folks who've been with me. I mean, Jesse, a friend of both of ours, has been with me for 10 years
Yeah,
now.
10 years.
My folks stay,
Yeah.
but a lot don't. And as hard as I try, and as much as I hire with other people's input, you still. And so I think it's not what happens. It's what we tell ourselves what happens. And let me share with you kind of where I am. So if you're struggling to hire the first person, there's an opportunity out there for someone else and for you to grow.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to be okay with change and growth
Mm-hmm.
and giving someone an opportunity, and they may take it and it may work
Mm-hmm.
and it may not. And you don't fully control that.
Yeah.
You're going to screen and do your best to pick the right person, and hopefully it's a good fit. And if it's not, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay for you and them.
And you're very open about that with that person when you bring them on.
That's changed over time.
And that's basically telling them, we're going to do all we can to try to make you successful, but
Yes.
there's certain things out of my control here, and there's a lot of things we don't know. We're going to try to mitigate as much of that as we can,
Yeah.
but if it doesn't work, you need to know that it just doesn't work, and I will tell you that, and we'll try to make it work. But I think that's something you need to set up front.
Yeah, to go further, and you know this, I'll even, and feel free, whoever's watching, to do it my way or not. My way is just my way.
Right.
But I will even get to, here are my bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
If you are here with me for a month, these are the things about me that you need to know now.
Mm-hmm.
One will be
That's a good one.
that I will be too busy, and I will expect you to know what I think you should know without showing you.
Sure.
And you've got to stop me and say, I don't know how to do that yet. You've got to spend time with me before you hand that off. So there's, and then I would say, well, Mark, what's some things after I work with you for a month that I'm going to find out?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a terrible morning person.
Right.
If you need to really talk with me, don't talk to me before 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And so what I do is I try to, and anyone who I've hired or knows me, I exhaust the person. I get to let them, I break down the facade that is the initial interview and the initial second interview, and I get to a point of realness where coming to see me is not fun anymore. It's work. The interview is work. And now people reveal themselves in a different way. And I save myself time. So it's investing time to save the time of not having a good hire.
You literally had a fiance come in one time. Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's how
my most recent hire, my wife and I went out with him as a male and his wife to dinner.
Yeah.
Because when you hire someone, you're hiring their family.
Yeah.
And you need to, at least me, for my conscience, say to the family, hey, wife, I don't know how this is going to go. Here's what I have to offer. Here's why this person's a good match. What questions do you have for me?
Yeah.
And It hurts though when it doesn't go right.
You didn't operate solo very long when you started. It seems like you got at least the first person in right away. Some people will take decades, if not never do it.
Yeah.
You knew right away that you needed to do it.
Yeah, it started in '02, and my first hire, I don't know if it was Tracy Reisner.
Mhm.
I remember, I mean, and she was probably with me, probably was a year and a half,
Yeah.
Tracy. But a couple of things. I know I'm not special, and I know the rule is 80%. If someone can do something 80% as well as you can, you shouldn't be doing it.
Okay.
And what you're doing is not as special as you think.
Right.
It's just our ego holds on to it.
Right.
And so whoever's watching, if you're a business person, the rule's 80%.
Mm-hmm.
And could another human do what you're doing 80% as well as you could? And if
Yeah.
the answer is yes, and you want to grow because that's your why, because that's key. Don't
Yeah.
grow because your friend's growing.
Yeah.
Grow because you know what lifestyle you want, you know what income it takes to make that lifestyle, and you want to take on the responsibility of almost like having a kid.
Yeah.
Looks really good from the outside.
Yeah.
You've just
Yeah.
gone through it. It's a lot of work.
Well, you got to go through the math. You know, that one person could increase your units X amount, and that increases your dollars X amount, which
Yeah.
pays for them to some extent.
Yeah.
That's critical. You got to go through that. Talk to me about paying extra to hire someone that already has skills
Mhm.
versus and having them plug in and go versus the finding someone who has the skill set, the motivation, the work ethic, the personality, and then just training them from the ground up. Because
Yeah.
I think that's a critical thing too, based on what you need. If you're new and you just need someone to take the basics off your plate, which 80% of real basic functions is not hard, is easy in the sense that you don't need to train all that much to do something very, very basic.
Mhm.
But if you need to train someone to do something high level,
Mhm.
then you might need someone with a different skill set. So I think that's a critical thing too in looking for what you need them to do, the why, if you will, and finding out if you need somebody that's skilled that you want to bring in that might be more expensive, or someone that's cheaper that you're willing to invest the time. I think that's a hard thing to figure out too. Some people might not even think about it, you know.
Yeah, and you know, my feeling here is counter to what I'm told. I'm told that the mortgage industry is laying off a lot, and there's a lot of people with good skill sets who need work
Yeah.
and would work for cheap, which I don't believe in, and would get up and running quickly. I have chosen to always hire people who are green,
Yeah.
who have the right culture, the right values, the right personality, but don't know a thing about helping someone buy a home.
Yeah.
I personally believe that you've got skills and you've got culture. And untraining culture, Mark, is so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard to untrain culture. I have a friend who runs a hair studio around here that has a lot of different branches. And, you know, if you wake up and cut hair in an environment where this is the way you're trained to think, when you move that person to another environment, they're still great at cutting hair, but if they don't think the way your business thinks, it's really hard to change.
Yeah. And if someone's been at a place for 10 years and you bring them on, you may have that clash because that other company might not have it.
You will. You will have that clash. And it's okay to do it, but don't underestimate. I personally think I would take 3 to 4x harder to retrain than to train.
Yeah. Because that's a fail. If the culture is wrong, you're probably not going to overcome that. Whereas if the person is green, that is a hurdle that you
and imagine we're talking about the person hiring their first or second hire,
right?
Even more so.
Yeah.
Because you put someone in, and there's two of you, and there's not a cultural match. I don't care what their skills are. You're not going to have success.
Yeah. Very important point there. Let's move into the benefits because all of this is with a goal of either making more money, having more life balance. But for me, what I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation was, okay, our business is really, really busy. You don't have time to go do networking events and see people and work on your systems and all that stuff. And then it gets slow and then you do, which is why I'm excited. But if you bring those people in, I feel like you can mitigate those waves. In other words, if it's really, really busy, but you've got the right help, then you do have time to continue to grow your business and continue to do those things, even when it's really, really busy. So I feel like it smooths out those ebbs and flows of business. So you get the rewards of that. Income wise, in our business, there is no ceiling. So in our business, it's critical, but I think a lot of people that hire people, that's also what they're after, is to grow financially. You get that. You get some life balance, but you get some rewards too. I mean, you see your team, developing in their own way. I think sometimes people develop to the point where they want to move out and go on to do other things, which I think that's a fear. Like, you hire someone, you invest all this time, they excel, all of a sudden they want to do what you're doing. Maybe they want a team, maybe they want to go off. Yeah. And that's the part you just have to accept, that people will do that. Sometimes people will be very good.
I think that you do need to accept that, but I think many people don't. And this is what I call shortage mindset, which is there's only so much in the world, and I have to box you out or put my arm up so that you can't have what I have.
Yeah.
And if you are that kind of thinker, you're going to struggle in hiring because the person's going to feel that you're being defensive, that you're boxing them out, because you are.
Yeah.
When you hire someone, and I tell my employees this to this day, you will leave me. You will not work here forever. I am okay with that.
Yeah.
And the burden of keeping you is on me, not you.
Yeah. Okay.
And once we understand that, if you're unhappy, not challenged, feel like this is wrong, please let me know.
Right.
I'll do my best to accommodate, but I'm not going to. At some point you will leave.
Yeah.
That's okay. So we start with the breakup.
Yeah.
And that feels better for me, because from the start we know we're not together. We're only together on this ride as long as it's mutually beneficial to us both.
Yeah. And again, you're just putting that out there from the beginning so that you're setting the right expectations with this person from day one.
That's right.
So that if it doesn't work, or if they do get to that point, you're ready to accept that mutually and move on.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So last point, where are you at? How are things going? You've got a big team. The real estate market is dipping, but you've got a lot of people on your shoulders. That's something people have to be okay with too when it slows down. Unfortunately, that can be a tough thing. Again, setting expectations.
That's you have to be okay with that to hire your first. When you and I have both been through a lot of coaching, we would stand up in the coaching seminars and be like, I will hire, I will fire, I will lay off. Do it again. I'll hire. Because if you aren't okay with that, don't hire.
Yeah, don't do it.
Because you will.
Yeah.
And so, in the end, I think what this looks like is once you get it with one, there will be a second. And by the way, you're helping our economy. You're blessing other people's lives.
Right.
You are probably a much better boss than most bosses are. So you're helping that person have a better family life, quality of life. So I would say to self-employed people out there, you should hire.
Yeah.
There's somebody who needs you.
Yeah.
And you need to grow.
Yeah.
And then you need to hire that person and take them from $12 an hour to 15 to 20 to 25 by increasing their skill set.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you change their lives too.
Right.
So Mark, what it feels like at this point is I wake up and I have a big work family.
Right.
And that keeps me sharp because I have to show up.
Okay. Thank you for coming, Greg. We're going to wrap up with that. Go ahead and tell people how to get in touch with you, why to get in touch with you. And you might think, I'm a loan officer, you're a loan officer, why am I doing that? But the reality is, the more people have to come on here that I am able to connect, even one time, I'm fine with that. You and I run very different businesses. We've never really come across one another in a clash ever that I can think of. And that's just because there's so much business out there and so many different realtors. There's no need to do that with our company. We're really good about that. So tell people how to get in touch with you. If they want to talk to you, if a realtor or somebody wants to talk to you about this.
Yeah, I mean, if you're watching this, you're Mark's customer. I wouldn't want to talk to you about a mortgage.
Not necessarily, but anyway.
If you are self-employed and are scared about taking the first step, or would like to hear if I do this, what about this that we didn't get to cover today, just gregcowart.com. It's my name. My last name is C-O-W like a cow, A-R-T like art with T on the end. Just plug that in. That's my cell phone that comes up, and I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has. I've fallen a lot. Yeah. And if I could share with someone any wisdom I've had, that's how we move this world along, is by leaving behind and making things better.
I enjoy it. I enjoyed talking with you. Thanks for coming on. I hope people enjoy it as well. And let's do it again sometime. Thank you.
Enjoyed it. Thank you, Mark.
Good.